Hello, my name is Travis Bean, and on this channel we talk Kanye West, and on this channel we talk Beach House, we talk Dream Pop, we talk Indie Pop, we talk all the stuff Travis likes to listen to outside Kanye West. And not so much Chris Lambert, the other host of the show. I have this video brought up here, and Chris reported on the news of Kanye being in the studio of Beach House and the implications of that. Although Chris didn't really know the implications of that because he's never listened to Beach House. As you can see from the video, from his Twitter post, he kind of got hounded for that, which is like, whatever. Like, not everyone has to listen to Beach House. Like, if you're not into dream pop or like indie music in general, I get that. But Chris did request that I come on and talk about Beach House because I actually have a long history with Beach House. I remember when they were first came out with their debut album. I was there for Devotion, and then when Teen Dream came out, I was like fully in, like giant Beach House fan. And that is one of the albums I am most nostalgic for. It was in that period of time, like college, just beginning college and getting out of college, like all of that music was coming out. And that was when like music meant the most to me, when it was having the biggest impact on me. So Beach House was a huge part of that. And I thought it'd be interesting to since Chris doesn't really know Beach House, to talk a little bit more from an experience perspective of Beach House and what they could actually bring to an album if we ever get anything from a Kanye Beach House collaboration. As we know in the past, that Kanye has worked with several off the beaten path musicians from like the people he samples, like Elton John and Steely Dan on Graduation. But then on Graduation as well, working with Daft Punk, right? Like totally out of left field, not something you're used to seeing from hip hop artists. And yet you can totally see how that went on to shape the soundscape of something like Graduation. Of course, there's Bon Iver, Justin Vernon on Yeezus, where, thinking about Daft Punk, they have their music, it's ultra pop music, right? Like it sounds like it's coming from out of space, which kind of matched the out of control, like hurtling forward nature of Graduation, an album where Kanye is dealing with being famous and learning what it's like to be mega famous and how empty and debilitating that lifestyle can be. That sonic, that soundscape that Daft Punk really brought to Kanye and allowed him to play with, it allowed him to really expand upon that emptiness that fame has, because when you catapult fame to that big of a level, when you're able to find a sound that does that, the come down from that, it really makes something like Homecoming and Big Brother hit Everything I Am, right? Like there's purpose to Daft Punk being there and influencing Kanye. Same with Bon Iver. Yeezus is the first four tracks aren't exactly Bon Iver tracks, right? They are mega out of control Yeezus Kanye, like running around the streets screaming, trying to start a revolution. But then we have the come down with something like Hold My Liquor or I'm in It, Blood on the Leaves. These songs, or I guess the end of New Slaves, where like Frank Ocean comes in and like Bon Iver comes in, and suddenly those artists who they specifically seen about the human condition, about the psyche, about dealing with really heavy emotions and grappling with mental illness. Like that's all really part of their music and trying to find meaning in the mundanities of life. Those are the elements they really brought to that section of Jesus. And you can just see people constantly bringing out these specific things Kanye's trying to find in his music. So we come to Beach House and you have to think like, okay, what is Beach House about? They're a dream pop band. What is dream pop? Maybe you don't know dream pop. If you're curious, if you want to like go back and listen to the forerunners of dream pop, there are bands like Slowdive, one of my absolute favorites. Who, by the way, they have a new album that came out in the last few years that might actually be my favorite Slowdive album. Like that's pretty rare that a band makes an album after 20 years and like it ends up being their best one. But of course, I love all the old stuff by them. There is Cocteau Twins, Yo La Tengo. Like those are kind of some of the classic acts. But dream pop is one of those genres that has really sustained itself and brought on a lot of really interesting acts. People like Hazel English and Hatchie and Linda Guilala, I think is the. Sorry, I'm butchering that. They're Spanish. They're one of my absolute favorite bands, actually. Despite the fact that I apparently don't know how to pronounce their name, that always doesn't matter so much to me. Even someone like Lana Del Rey kind of dabbles in dream pop, and they've moved into a more like shoegazy ambient kind of sound. Over the years, they're one of those bands that are a lot like Kanye, which maybe is why Kanye likes him a lot. Beach House is a band that constantly toys with its sound. And while their albums are always like dreamy, like dreamlike soundscapes, and like it feels like you're floating in space, they still, while their albums sound like that, they are a band that's really good about changing their sound at the same time. Like no two records sound alike, and they're really good at focusing in on a specific emotion or idea that they're going for in the record and extracting as much as they can out of it. So when it comes to Kanye, yeah, I guess you just have to think the state Kanye's in. Let's see, can we pull up the... Oh, I had this song pulled up specifically. Just looking at the track list, like Kanye is a little bit more in an internal space right now. Like Chris and I were talking about in the most recent episode, that this is the most specific it's ever felt like Kanye's been on an album. He tends to like create these characters that are bigger than life, that are kind of removed from himself. Like they're exaggerated versions of Kanye. Thinking of his character on 808s and Heartbreak, or My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I mean, it starts with Dark Fantasy, this introducing this gigantic tale, and something like Power, where someone has such immense power they don't know what to do with it. Yeezus, of course, the Yeezus character, who's completely out of control, like trying to change the world at any moment's notice, while also trying to fix his life at the same time. The Life of Pablo, of course, he's Pablo. But he's slowly kind of started pulling back from that. Like, yay, Kitsy Ghost, Jesus is King. You can see him getting a lot more personal and specific, and it feels like we're hearing more about like Kanye the man. And then Donda, of course, even more so, like talking about his mom, talking specifically about stuff he's going through in his life. And then Donda 2, pretty focused on Kanye and like getting back together with his family. Like it's mostly that, right? So, and a lot of the songs are dealing with the fallout of not being able to accomplish that goal. You've got, of course, True Love, Broken Road, Too Easy. They're very, gosh, what's the right word? I almost said like soft, but they're contemplative a little bit, right? They're really working through something. They're a little more focused and poetic, which to me really matches Beach House's sound. Like thinking back all the way to Zebra from Teen Dream, the album I really like. They have this really interesting way of like, describing like a headspace here. You know you're gold. You don't got to worry none. Oasis child, born and wild. Don't I know you better than the rest? All deception from you. So kind of like speaking more broadly about this thing, and then like mythologizing the bit. Any way you run before us, black and white horse arching among us. Like it really creates this image in this space that you're in. And you kind of see them doing that over their career, drifting in and out. You see the road you're on. It came rolling down your cheek. You say just what you mean. And in between, it's never as it seems. Help me to name it. Help me to name it. Working through something, like trying to understand something, trying to become whole. Like I think that ends up being the theme of Kanye's entire career. Like him trying to like stabilize himself and find meaning and figure out like what is fulfilling, like what drives you. And I can see how that isn't specifically what Beach House is doing. They're a little more spare, as you can see, like the lyrics. It's not like a hip hop album where there are lots of bars and you can really work through lots of thoughts. Beach House kind of just like lays the seeds, and then the music takes care of the rest, which is something I really appreciate in music. I like Kanye for the specificity and the narrative we get, but I also really enjoy music that kind of just sits in something and is more atmospheric, which is pretty much what dream pop does. That's what makes it unique and special, especially something like Space Song. Like it's this incredible song that moves through different parts musically, but it's just like, it was late at night, you held on tight. From an empty seat, a flash of light. It'll take a while to make you smile. Somewhere in these eyes, I'm on your side. You wide-eyed girls, get it right. And then just says fall back into place over and over for the rest of the song. Um, I could see them, and this is from their new album that just came out, Once Twice Melody. I could see Kanye playing with this a bit. Like, I don't think Kanye is necessarily going to be ever this spare on an album, but you think about something like, I mean, I have Too Easy pulled up here. Like, it's not like, I'm thinking of the refrain here. Remember at the dawn, waiting for my whole life, doing all that producing at midnight, living on utter bliss, nothing but no mind, turn around to leave, nothing but new light. You can see Kanye getting pretty poetic here, like in this whole chorus here, he's noting a lot of contrast. Remember at the dawn, the start of a new day, waiting for my whole life. So this idea of just like the single day you're trying to take care of, pit against like what's going to happen every day after that. Living in utter bliss, your bliss, you're happy, you're in a good state. Nothing but no mind, but people think you're crazy. You don't have a mind. Turn around to leave nothing but new light. Really just playing with contrast and how those sort of what's the word? What's the term called when you have like two opposing beliefs at once? Anyway, whatever the term for that is. Like that kind of consumes you and like causes stressors in your life. You could see Kanye playing with that a little bit. You think of a song like Too Easy or Broken Road, like there can't paying a toll on a broken road. Sorry, I want to get it right. I don't want to just like butcher this. Pay the toll. What does it mean to find your soul? Pay the toll on a broken road. Like you could see that fitting into a Beach House song, right? And with Kanye playing with that sound a little bit more and more, and bringing in other artists like Don Toliver, like Beach House, I could see Kanye creating a very emotional soundscape from a collaboration with Beach House, right? If he's really going to lay into the dream pop sound, as we saw him do with the ambient sounds on Donda, then you could see him easily transitioning into what Beach House does. Because Beach House is already like a little bit ambient, right? Like we talked about in the Donda season, that ambient music really just, Brian Eno, who was like the father of ambient music, said that ambient music is as ignorable as it is interesting. It's just a really interesting way to think about it. Like it kind of just sits there in the background and like kind of steeps in a single sound, but does enough with the sound and tweaks it enough along the way that it like kind of morphs and becomes this different thing and forces you to kind of, you aren't engaged in it necessarily in the way you would engage with like lyrics, what you're trying to follow and understand. Ambient music just kind of consumes you and let it wash over you. And you come to understand what it's about in reflection to yourself. You could see Kanye doing something like that with the sound a little bit more. Like maybe he pulls back in the lyrics a little bit. Like maybe he more sits in some space, like he did a song like Moon. Like Moon has plenty of lyrics, but it's also like a mood song. Like it's a song where like you hear a lot of the same lines over and over, a lot of the same ideas are conveyed over and over. And it's more about like you just feeling the space it's in. So I could see Beach House bringing that to Kanye's music and allowing him to really, it would force him to reflect on where he's at, decisions he's made that have led to him having such heartache and feeling such loss. And then ultimately, how do you fix it? Like, how do you move forward? How do you put yourself in the best position mentally to be able to deal with this and come out on the other side whole again, and maybe achieving what you want, maybe getting your family back, at least maybe improving the relationship, and fixing something about yourself along the way. That's all part of Beach House's music, and that's all really what Kanye does on every album. We talk about it on every album, the narrative journeys he goes on each time. You start in a low place and you end hopefully somewhere at the end, like even if you're not in a better place, just like you have a clear vision of where to go next. Donda definitely ends that way. It feels like he has more of a connection with his mom by the end and is more connected with God and kind of sees the light on like where to go. So that could happen on this. I mean, this is all speculation. Who knows why Kanye's working with Beach House? He's probably just a fan of Beach House. Like Chris noted in the video, they came up around the same time, 2004. They've kind of been on their grind for a while. They have enjoyed critical praise throughout their career, and they're kind of recognized, at least in the indie arena, as like a legendary duo at this point, like somebody that influenced a lot of people and drew from very specific influences that like Francois Hardy, you know, just like these really cool influences, and they kind of have that reputation in the indie industry. So it's not surprising to me that Kanye pulls them in. I mean, I'm thinking of when he showed off sampling Sufjan Stevens. I think it was right after Jesus is King, and he was teasing Donda originally, or maybe it was before he even mentioned Donda the album. But I just remember him showing that they were working with a Sufjan Stevens song. Like Kanye he knows no limits musically. Like he can find inspiration and emotion from anybody or anything. So I'm really excited about the Beach House thing. A Beach House Kanye song would be dope. Not gonna lie, I would be way into it, and it would be fun to dissect it with Chris, who knows nothing about them. I'll teach him all about Beach House. Okay, that was all. I just wanted to jump in here because I think Chris really wanted me to, and I'm always excited to talk about music I like outside of Kanye. So, what a fun video. Thanks for watching. If you're wondering about the hat, it's because my hair is so terrible, and I'm about to go out on a run. So the combination of those things just led me to wearing a hat in this video. I made sure it was an Adidas hat for Kanye's sake. Please like the video, subscribe below, comment about Beach House. I'll talk your ear off about Beach House. And yeah, thanks for watching. Stay wavy and keep it loopy.